Hi there. In this video, I want to go over the process where we get the information that the text filled out onto a receive form and we put it into the receive form spreadsheet. So this is going to be part of our section C of our source process, so the weekly receiving process. And I'm going to be going over this section of the process, and it just spells out how to enter this data from the spreadsheet. So we'll just go through this. Um, so you may remember from another video, we created this form and printed this out. This came from the receive form spreadsheet, and we made a printable form like this and then sent it to the shop where they found each of these items, or they found as many as they could, and they entered certain data about them. And so in this video, we want to go over how do we get this data from this form back to the order form spreadsheet. And I will say it's super nice when we do this process very quickly. We can do it in a day, or at most 2 days is all it should take, of printing this out, sending it to a tech. They go to the shop, they fill it out and send it back. And so very often when you get back on the order form, you'll find that it still looks like this from how you set it up. And that's always super nice. If not, you need to get it back to looking like in this same format right here, and these same items all lined up. And so we don't need it. We don't need the page layout. You can actually just change back to normal. But I'm going to keep everything else the same because I know it's still sorted the same, and it's still got the same vendors on here. And so everything on here is going to match up exactly with this form right here. That just makes it much easier to enter the data if you have it like that. So let's take a look at the process and see. So on Thursday of every week, receive the receive form from the office, update the order form spreadsheet order tab with the info from the receive form. So that's going to be, we'll work on this line right now. So that's basically just saying, take all this info that's been written in and transfer it over to the receive form. So we'll work with that. It's really nice if you have two monitors to do this. I do. I could put it over here, but then you wouldn't be able to see it. So I'm actually going to work with this on one screen, but I'm going to set it up to where you can see them both like this. So if you only have one monitor, this is a good way to do it. If you have two monitors, definitely do that. Oops, I clicked the wrong spreadsheet here. Yeah, I want this one. Okay. Nice. So now I have the receive form, or the order form spreadsheet, and the receive form from the text to where I can see them on the same screen. And I'm sure these match up exactly, so I'm not going to mess with it. If you're not sure, just double check. Just go and hand check a handful of these and just make sure that everything's lined up here, being that the same parts here line up with the parts here. And then I'm going to go and start entering this data. So what you want to do is we have this number received column over here. We'll start with it. And then we have the number received column in the order form spreadsheet. So I want to get whatever the tech wrote in here typed in over here. So I'll just start doing that. So 3, 10, 10, 10, 3, 2, 10, 4. And then you can see it skips one. I'm looking right here right now. So I just entered all those, and then it's skipping one. So I want to make sure to skip that one. 2, 1, so on and so forth. I'll pause the video to finish this. One tip I do want to give you though, make sure that you don't actually get to looking at this column. That can be easy to do if you're not paying attention. Make sure you always look at what the tech wrote in and enter what the tech wrote in. Because for instance, they didn't write anything into this column. That means we didn't receive that item. They didn't find it. And I don't want to update this to make it look like we received it. That would end up being a pretty big mistake, and just cause confusion. So we want to avoid that. Just make sure to enter exactly what they enter into this number received column. So anyways, with that, I'll pause the video and I'll finish entering this information. Okay, got that done, and I made sure to get all pages. So this one just has two, but you have to make sure you get all the pages of the receive form. And so I got all that data entered, and I've kind of looked through it and double checked it. And it looks like everything matches up, which is good. Um, but the next thing then we want to do is get this date received put in. And hold on one second, I'm gonna fix something. Okay, sorry about that. A couple of these, I had to move some data out of these earlier, and the headers got removed. So, anyways, back to it. Let's so I'm just gonna go through here and enter these dates, and it looks like all of them are the same. Usually they are. Usually the date's gonna be the same because they do it in just one day. But just scroll through and just double check to make sure it's all the same date. And I see it is, so I'm gonna enter that date here. And then just copy and paste it for each item that has been filled out. So I wouldn't want to put it here, but for any item, oops, any item that we did receive, I'll fill that same date out. Okay, always remember to save as you go. Um, the next thing we want to get is the new item weight and the dimensions entered in. And so they only do this for items that are listed as new. So you can see right here, this one is given as new. And if you scroll over, they weighed it and measured it. If it's a stock item, it means that we've already got that data for it. And even if it's received, they don't have, there's no reason to make them do it twice. And so we list it as stock, and that just tells them, hey, just put this item on the shelf. You don't need to weigh and measure it. But we want to get that new data for the ones that we for the new items on this spreadsheet. Um, you could enter it into these columns, but this isn't at the actual destination for that data, so you don't really want to do that. It'd kind of just be a waste of time. Um, these columns are here just so that they end up on this receive form. It's really just a space for the text to write that information in. We don't actually put any information into these columns in the order form spreadsheet. The columns that we do put that information in are hidden right now. And so I'm actually going to select everything and just say unhide, and come over, and here's the destination for that data: length, width, height, and weight. And so I'm going to find each one of those, and so let's see here. I'm looking for this steel nipple 1¼ by 6. Let's find that on here. It's kind of hard doing this just on one screen. That's what I was saying earlier. If you have two screens to do this on, it's a lot easier. So here's that. You can see it is indeed blank. So let me scroll back over here, make sure I enter it in the right place. So I'm just going to go ahead and enter 0.991 for the weight, the length, width, and height. So that's going to be 6 by 1.5 by 1.5. We always need dimension data in 3 dimensions. You can see this tech, instead of writing 1.5 a second time, he just wrote 1.5 squared. So that just means 6 by 1.5 by 1.5 is the measurement of that item. Go down here and find the next ones. So it's these leather gloves. Look for those. Here they are. So I'll enter into these next. Scroll back over on this one. Okay. I'll go ahead and enter their weights. So I'm looking at this information right here. So 0.274 and 0.356. Then get their dimensions. So it's 11 by 5 by 1. Looks like they're both the same. So I'll just copy and paste that information over. What's going on? Oh, okay, never mind. Yeah, that's right. Okay, what are these next ones then? So it's all this Young Skinner Bros stuff. So I know everything. It looks like everything from this last vendor, Young Skinner Bros, It's going to be new information, so let's go and find those. Oops. Looks like that starts right here. Make sure, yeah, I'm looking at the weight column right here. All right. So it looks like 12.1, 33.2, 5.44, 0.106. Now I'm looking on this page right here. So 0.0583 and 0.0766. So I just entered this information right here, and I can see it matched up pretty well with this information over here. It's all that one vendor. And so even though I can't see these items over here, I know I'm lined up and I got them right. So now let's enter the dimensions. So starting with this one right here, so it looks like 12 by 5.5 by 5.5, then 12 by 8 by 5. Okay, I think you see what I'm doing. I'm just going down through here, entering this data. And so I'm going to pause the video and finish that up. All right, got that done. Not super important, but one thing I will ask you to do, so we have length, width, and height. And I like to enter those in descending order, even so the tech wrote them in that way. But let's say, for instance, if the tech wrote 5 by 11 by 1, I'd still prefer you to enter it in descending order of length being the longest, width being the second, and height being the shortest. Like I said, that's not super important. If we don't get that perfect in the database, that is a-okay. But as long as we can, always enter length as the longest dimension, width as the second, and height as the shortest dimension. Just a cleaner way to do it, be more consistent with everything. With that done, the next thing you want to do is go over here and get any shelf numbers that need to be filled in. Sometimes too, if the shelf number isn't correct or if something's been moved, the text will cross these out and write in a new shelf number beside it, so you need to pay attention to those. Doesn't look like that's going on here, but I do want to make sure these shelf numbers get filled in. So let's see. It looks like this one, here's a mistake the tech made. Oh, never mind. That's an assembly part. I was going to say, I thought there should be a shelf number there, but it is an assembly part, and it's require some additional assembly, so the tech did not enter a shelf number there. But this first one, 5D3, let's see. Oh, that's those steel nipples again, so let's go find those. That right there. Find the shelf right here. Or 5D3. Okay, let's go find these next ones. It's the gloves right here. And those are 3E4. And then I see, almost missed it, but you can see some tally marks here, meaning that's the same as above. Don't want to miss those. That should be this item right here. So, and then I see that it's 2C2 again. So I'm just going to keep copying and pasting down there. So I got all that entered. With that done, I do like to transfer this X over. It's really for the tech to know that the way they go through this is they find the item, they write the number, they write the date. If it's a new item, they do the dimensions, and then they find the shelf for it, put it on the shelf, and after they double checked everything, they get to put an X in that box, meaning that's been done, everything's been done. I like to transfer those over. I think it just looks good on the spreadsheet, and it's also a double check for you. So once I know that I've kind of double check that I got all this data here, got everything moved over, I can put those check boxes there as well. So I'm just going to go down through here and do that for any item that we did receive. And if this doesn't get done, it's not the end of the world. That X is not super important to actually have in the spreadsheet. Okay. Um, and then, so with that, we have all this data transferred over, and we are actually done with this sheet right here. Okay, so let's take a look at our process and see what it says to do next. So after that's been done, change each item status column to received. So let's go and do that real quick. Now, that's only, again, that is only for the items that we accidentally, that we actually received. So however you want to do this, a good way, I think, is to actually go over and hide all of these. So I hit everything between status and number received. So now I've got it lined up to where I can know which ones have been received and not. I can see it all together. And so I'm just going to go in here and enter received for each item that we actually received. Don't want to do it on the items that we didn't receive. Okay, so now those are our received items. I'm going to go just back. It's super important we get this right, so I'm just double checking, making sure I didn't accidentally enter received on something that we didn't receive. But it looks like I got that all right, so I'm going to go ahead and unhide that. Let's see what our next step is. Okay, so this is a series of steps all right here. So if number received for an item is less than stock order number, let me show you a way to quickly check for that. So here's our number received, and then here's our stock order. We want to make sure that these match up, and I eyeballed it earlier, and I know that they do, but sometimes you've got a ton of data to look at, and it's easier to have the computer do a check for you. So let's, first thing, let's actually just filter down now by received. We don't want to look at anything we didn't receive. And so we see all of this, and so everything's filled out. I want to check this column against this column. There's a couple ways you can do that. I think the best way is I'm just going to do for this cell, and we leave a few blank columns throughout the spreadsheet. And I don't know how a lot of these got here or why, but they actually can come in handy for stuff like this. So I'm going to do a quick check, and I'm going to put a formula in here. I'm going to say equals stock order minus number received. And so this should be a 0 for each one of these. So we should have received the number we ordered for every single item. So I can see down through here now that everything is a 0. So I know this column perfectly matches this column. That's a quick check. So I'm going to delete those out. After you've checked, you can just delete that. You don't need it anymore. And so, but what if something doesn't match? So where are we here? So if number received for an item is less than stock order number. So if something doesn't match, let's say, for instance, we ordered 3 and received 4, that's not that big a deal. If we received more than we ordered, I guess they just gave us a free part on accident. That's fine. We'll move with that. It's not worth like calling them about and trying to fix it. Hey, we got a free part. That's not terrible. More often than not, though, what will happen is there will be one with less. Let me pick one of these M&M equipment parts. Um, Actually, here, I'll just do this. I'll do this gear oil right here from Hooten Oil. And stock order 10, but let's say they may have not had all of them. Um, maybe they had to put some on back order or just, messed up and forgot to deliver them. And we have an 8 here. Now we have one that doesn't match, right? And again, this is an example. I'll fix this before we move on to the next step because this isn't correct, but I have to create an example because this is important for you to see. So now we have one that doesn't match, right? Stock order 10, number received 8. So that's different. So what do we do when that happens? So It says insert a new row under that item. And I liked, anytime you insert a new row, I would encourage you to clear the filters. Excel can be kind of weird with filters and whatnot. Um, and so adding data when you have filters on and columns hidden can cause mistakes to happen. So I would encourage you to make sure that all data is unhidden and filters are cleared to do this. So, but I need to find that item. Let's see, I know it was from Hooten Oil, and it was this gear oil right here. So here's the one that doesn't match. Stock order 10. Oh, and let me go real quick and go to view and freeze the top panes. Whoops. Why did it do it that way? Unfreeze. Okay. Yep, so that should be the top panes. There we go. All right. So again, let me find that item. We're looking under Hooten Oil right here. Okay. And that step was to insert a row under it. So I'll do that. Now, what's the next step? So copy and paste all info for that item into the new row. Okay, done that. What's next? Change new row status to on order. Okay, so we're still expecting to receive these items. All right, so that's been changed. Change new row stock order to be stock order minus, so stock order for the previous row minus number received. Let me explain that. It's simpler than it seems when it's all written out like that. So if we ordered 10 of these and received 8, we're still expecting to receive 2. And so the stock order for this shouldn't be 10 because we received 8 of them. It's stock order minus number received. That's 2. Okay. And then, oops, what's our next step? Change current stock to be current stock for the previous row plus the number received. We'll leave this. This step isn't actually super important because of a later part of this stock update process, but we'll go ahead and do it. So change current stock for the new row to be current stock for the previous row plus the number received. So that's going to be, here's our previous row, current stock plus number received is 8 plus 5 is 13. So that's saying to change this, the current stock for the new row, to be this plus this. So we need to change this cell right here to be 13. Our next step, delete number received, date received, and stock from new row. So here's our new row right here. We want to delete this information right here. Number received, date received, and stocked, because we haven't received those yet. They're still on order. And then let's go back here. Contact vendor about missing items. So in this step, it's like we call them up and say, hey, this one's Hooten Oil. I could call them, I could email them, whatever your best way of contacting them is. It's usually best to call about something like this. They may have already informed you. Very often they'll inform you, hey, I know you ordered 10 of these. Sorry, we've only got 8 right now. And then if you know that information already, you don't have to contact them. But you need to, this step really is more just, hey, find out why these items are missing. If they're missing and you don't have any information about them, contact that vendor and say, hey, we ordered 10. We didn't get 10, we got 8. What's going on? And bird dog that out, figure out what's going on. And then update estimated arrival. That's this column right here. I haven't been putting data into it lately. We should, though. It does help the text to know if they can have, just an estimate. It helps you too, if you're doing this. But if you can get an estimated arrival date of like, hey, we're still waiting on 2 of these. When do you think they'll show up? You can enter that right there. And so that fixes if stock order 10 received 8. Those are the steps. If you just follow these steps right here, that will fix that problem. And I hope that makes sense as to why that is. It is very important because that is pretty common. Obviously, nothing on this one was that way, but like most receive forms will have items missing on them. I'm just going to fix this real quick. So this was fictitious. I'm going to delete this row and change this back to the true data, which is 10. And that's got all that fixed. All right, so with that, let's see what our next step is. So create a new product on the website for each new item. So let's go back. Again, this is not for all the new items in the spreadsheet. This is just for the items that we received. So quickly we can sort by those. And if we look down through here and look for the new items, so here's a new item, and you can see it doesn't have an SKU. Here's a few new items that do have SKUs. We don't have to create anything for those. Those are already created. Here's some more new ones that don't have an SKU. And then these don't have an SKU as well. So I'm going to leave this verbiage the same here. Create new product for each on the website for each new item. But really what that's saying is create a new product for each received item that doesn't have an SKU. And so actually, so here's some stock ones that don't have an SKU. Do we have? Yeah. See, it's because this really stems from whether we have this data or not. The source of this not being consistent with what the process says is that a lot of items were added on to our websites before, so we bought items and stocked items before we were getting this data right here, and so we put them on the website, but we didn't have this data for them. Well, when we see those come through, when we reorder them, we want to get that data, even though they're not technically a new item. They're an item we've stocked before. They're on the website. They have an SKU, but we didn't have this data for them. So we want to, so like this, for example, is labeled as new. Well, how's it new if it's got an SKU? Well, it's because it's one of those items that we had ordered previously, but it was before we were doing this process of getting this data. So when I made this form for the text that it didn't have this data, then I called it new, and that caused the tag, that triggered the tag to get me this data. I know that it's super confusing of why that is, but basically for this part of the process, if an item doesn't have an SKU, whether it's stock or whether it's new, we need to create that. If it doesn't have an SKU, it's not on the website. And so we need to create an item for it on the website. And so that'll be the next step we'll go over. Okay. So after thinking about it, I think it is best actually to cover these couple of steps in another video. So create a new product for each new item. Although it's just a couple of steps on this, that does take a little bit of time. And I don't want this video to be much longer. It's almost 30 minutes. So we'll cover that in another video. I'll cover this real quick. So move sample items to test tab. We don't have any on this, but if one of these types was test, once we've received it, you just cut this information out of here and put it onto the test tab. That's where all these items came from. This is a little different. They don't match up perfectly. You actually have to like copy from here and over. I'll just do a copy instead of a cut, and just for an example. And then, oops, paste it right here. So I started with the item name, paste it like that, and that way it lines up here. And then you end up going and entering some more information here. So we'll do that real quick. So again, this is an example. Label order form spreadsheet test tab status to need test. So that is saying give this status as need test, so that needs to be tested. Starts the testing process, triggers the testing process, and that's all you have to do there as part of this process. But again, that was just an example. I'm going to delete that out of there. That's if one of these, if in the status here it said test, that's what you do with it. Add a new tab to the test form. I'll cover this stuff in another video of the testing, because we have a testing process, and that'll get covered in another video. So that's going to be it for this video. And in another video, I will show how to create these new products and add the SKU to the order form. So if you have any questions on anything we covered in this video, just give me a shout. I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks a lot.